welcome. This is season 2, episode 3 of the Unofficial Official Story. I'm Jennifer, and I am feeling it today.
I'm Dwayne, and I'm feeling like Mars is in retrograde. That's what you're supposed to say when technology doesn't work, right? So that's how I'm feeling.
And I am Koji, and I am annoyed with the government who is trying to keep us down from recording this episode. We've had a million minutes of problems trying to get this episode running. So we're going to make it through, though. We're going to overcome the government. We're going to go for it.
This is a podcast where we tell you the official story. We look at the paranormal, conspiracies, unexplained phenomena, cryptids, and true crime. And by the end, we're going to tell you what really maybe happened. In this episode, we're asking the question, dun, 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 was Britney Spears a government agent for President George W. Bush? What? I mean, that is just such a weird conspiracy. I never heard about it till this podcast. What about you, Will?
Not at all. I didn't even know this was a thing at all until you guys said this is what the show's going to be about.
So that is our guest. We have Will Rodriguez, one of the hosts of the podcast, The Skeptic Metaphysicians. What? So Will, woohoo. Thanks for sticking through our technical difficulties today. The government is trying to not let the truth be released.
Yeah, and I'm feeling like we can't let the government take over. We're going to beat them.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Will Rodriguez has started his career with NBC Telemundo and is now the regional programming and video production manager for a national TV network where he created Emmy-award winning nominated programming such as Destination Virginia, Untapped Virginia, I Do, The Ultimate Wedding Guide, Calm, Cool, and Connected, and Living 757. It's quite a portfolio. So on his podcast, The Skeptic Metaphysicians, he and his co-host, Karen, dive into all things metaphysical, paranormal, and esoteric in the hopes of finding something, anything, that can prove that there is more to our reality than what we see with our eyes.
Tell us how you guys started the podcast.
Well, it all started because of an existential crisis I went through back when COVID first hit. Right? Everybody was under extreme amounts of stress. You guys are in the industry, so you know how much stress we're under in the TV world. And it all kind of collapsed in on me at the same time. I had to take some time off of work. I had created the Calm, Cool, and Connected, which was all about mental health. So I went into that field to find that it wasn't enough. And I stumbled on an old friend by way of a book that I read when I was in my 20s called Conversations with God. I just kind of leafed through it again and fell down this massive rabbit hole all over again. If you've not read that book, it is way out there, a total different way of thinking about what God is. And I had stayed away for a long time because of the word God. And I'm not really a very religious person. And the book is called Conversations with God, so it kind of turned me off. But then when I started reading it, I realized, oh, this is not at all what I thought it was. And then that started me looking into stuff, right? I'm a skeptic, but I really want to believe. I say on the show open, I'm like Mulder from the X-Files, right? I really want to believe, but I'm also really afraid of being looked at as naive or being taken advantage of. So I need that proof. I need to be able to feel it, taste it, smell it, see it before I can believe it. So my co-host, on the other hand, is full on. She is on board. She doesn't, psychics and channels and mediums and pet detectives and whatever. She's all on board. Astral projection, chakras, kundalini. So she asks questions like, oh, wow, tell me more. Where I'm asking, how do you know you're not just hallucinating this stuff, right? How do you know you're not just dreaming this stuff? So though we want to believe, we can't just take things as sight unseen. So I asked more of the pragmatic questions, like how do you know for sure, that kind of stuff. But over the course of the last year and a half that we've been doing the show, I'm finding that I can't explain a lot of the stuff that we're talking about. And a lot like you guys, we don't just do metaphysics, we do cryptids and UFOs and paranormal stuff. So we're looking into all of it because we're finding the more we find out there, the more there is to find out there. I'm not willing to close my eyes and say, no, that can't be real, because I've seen stuff and heard stuff and experienced stuff that I can't experience. I mean, I can't explain. So I can't say these things are bullshit because I know I've had stuff happen to me that I can't explain. So who am I to say the stuff is bullshit? It just could be that I've not experienced it yet. So it's fun.
I love Conversations with God. That's one of my favorite books in my 20s. I remember reading it. It really did change my mind, or not change my mind. It changed my conception of my relationship with God or whoever. And just kind of, it really did open up my eyes a lot.
Like, I attempted to read that book 20 years ago, and I actually purchased it. And then it wasn't like too difficult. I just found the first few pages, I felt a little bit like, I felt like it was like cult to speak. And I should have read more. And so I took the book back, but maybe I'll try again. You know what I
mean? You have to go into it knowing that this is something that is just completely opposed to everything you know about God. In fact, I think a lot of the Christians that I speak to about the book really consider it heresy. I mean, they hate the book because it says the things that they don't want to say or hear or pay attention to. It's so, and I understand your thoughts about the cult speak. It took me a bit to get through it myself too at the beginning because I was offended by it. I was like, well, how dare you say this to me?
Right. But for me, it was like, I didn't even read anything that I disagreed with. It just felt like there's something I'm going to disagree with later. You know what I mean? Like when you get introduced to a cult, it's more like, hey, do you want to be the best version of yourself? Oh yeah, I want that. Do you want to love people? Yeah, I want that. And then those are all yeses. And then when that first question that should be a no, you might miss it. So it starts out with, do you want to be the best version of yourself? And then it ends with, you're all wearing Nikes and drinking Kool-Aid and waiting for the mothership.
So you're thinking it's a David Koresh thing.
When you're reading a different book, you're reading the Koresh Bible or something. Well, Will, why don't you tell us the craziest thing you've learned so far from your show?
Craziest or most plausible that I found interesting, because those are two very different things. We interviewed a guy who the very first thing he said to us was like flipping that grenade open and tossing it in my lap and then saying, okay, motherfucker, what are you going to do now? Right? He said, in no uncertain terms, I am the light, right? Everyone who dies has to go through him to get to the other side. Every person, not just people, but animals, anything that is alive that dies goes through him. Their souls go through him. He told me what archangels look like. He told me he routinely has conversations with Jesus and God. He was John the Baptist for a while. I mean, this guy was out there. And if it wasn't for the fact that right before we start recording, he said to me, there's a lady over your left shoulder that's blonde and green eyes, and she is saying that she's your grandmother. Now, if you look at me, I'm of Cuban descent. Cubans aren't seen as blonde-haired and green-eyed people, but sure enough, my grandmother had blonde hair and green eyes, and no one knows that.
Oh my God, get the fuck out.
I swear to God. No, it freaked me out to begin with, but then he drops that grenade in my lap. Now I don't know what to do with this guy. Right? Because on one hand, he nailed my grandmother without having any reason to nail my grandmother. Well, that sounds weird. Let me maybe rephrase that.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
But then he's talking this stuff that I just don't know what to make of it. So his interview was the one that made me say, okay, you know what? I don't know shit. So I better just put the messages out there and let everyone else decide whether they believe it or not. And in fact, it's been one of our most popular episodes. And people have actually said to me, reached out to us and said, we've had a session with the guy and he's amazing.
That's pretty amazing. And as long as he doesn't hurt people, or take advantage of people, then it's okay if he's the light. If he thinks he's the light, whether he is or if he isn't, it's okay that he has that position.
Absolutely.
As long as he doesn't use that as justification to do bad things.
Well, I was going to say, and that's the thing, right? You just never, and that's why I'm skeptic, because there's so many people out there that are just out there to grab that buck, right? To take advantage of.
Right.
We interviewed a guy who founded a foundation called the Forever Family Foundation, and their whole purpose is to certify people whether or not they're real, they're legit mediums or not. So they put them through this massive testing process to make sure that they say, yeah, these people are legit and not trying to take someone's money, because his daughter died and he was desperate to find out whether or not she was still around on the other side.
Right.
Found all kinds of people telling him all kinds of stuff that was pure crap, just to make a buck, and he didn't like that. So that's my big concern. I don't want to be seen as that guy that's so gullible that goes, oh, "Wow, really?" Right? That's now nailing my grandmother the way he did was pretty crazy. I gotta admit that.
So it's time to get into it. Time to get into the meat of the show.
Let's do it.
Here are the facts.
All right. So the 24-hour news cycle was just starting to kick in during the Bush administration. So whenever the president did something stupid, Britney would do something crazy, like forcing news organizations to cover her and not the president. And this might seem like a coincidence, but could it be intentional? Could the Bush administration have paid Britney to distract the American public?
Well, let's look at the proof. January 5th, 2004, the Bush administration revealed the cover of a CIA agent, Valerie Plame. A week before the trial to indict the person responsible for the leak, Scooter Libby, Britney marries her childhood friend and then annuls the marriage 55 hours later.
Do you guys remember this? A lot of these things that we're talking about with Britney, I remember them happening. I was not a Britney fan back then, anything, but you still all these cultural moments you remember, even if it's like so stupid.
Was this before she married the dancer dude?
Federline?
Or after?
This one was before Federline, the Vegas marriage.
Yeah. I was going to say Federer, but then I realized he's a great tennis player. Federline, yes.
All right. April 2006. President Bush's approval rating is at an all-time low. That's also when Britney drives with her infant son in a lap, causing a firestorm of news coverage, right? We remember that too.
I remember that. She was on her driveway, though.
Yeah, she was in her freaking driveway.
It's not like she was driving on a highway going 100 miles an hour. I mean, I have a kid. I understand. But it's come on.
Yeah.
February 2007 announces that Al-Qaeda has reformed. That's also when Britney is sent to rehab. She shaves her head and attacks a paparazzi reporter, and I use reporter in quotes, obviously.
Well, here's the thing. She had a bet with that paparazzi that Al-Qaeda would reform, and the paparazzi didn't pay up. So that's really what that was.
Wow. You heard it here first. That's the news right there.
March 14, 2007, there is a controversy about political firings at the Department of Justice, which is on the same day that we find out that Britney hooked up with some musician while in rehab. Oh my gosh, such a big deal, right? Such a big deal.
To be fair, I think every 22 minutes somewhere in the world, someone in rehab is hooking up with a musician.
Oh my God, right?
I mean, is there anything else to do in rehab? I've never been to rehab, but I imagine I was in rehab. I just hook up with people all the time, right? That's like the 13th step.
It's against the rules, but I think it's sort of also better than doing smack. You know what I mean?
Yeah. True.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. And it kind of feels like camp. I've been to them, and when I go, it always feels like some science camp or sleepaway camp. The venue always feels that way. It's a big slumber party. I haven't been to rehab. I just visited. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
That's what they always say.
And then there was this very suspicious cameo on Michael Moore's documentary Fahrenheit 9/11, where she said this: "I think we should just trust our president in every decision that he makes. And we should just support that and be faithful in what happens." Yeah, it should be noted that neither the president nor Britney ever commented on this. Which makes it really suspicious when you're in a room with 12 to 20 people and two people are aggressively not talking to each other, they're hooking up.
Oh, not a visual I needed. What do you think?
That's pretty legit. Yeah, I was going to say, I remember, you guys remember that? I mean, I saw Fahrenheit 9/11 in the theater. That was a big deal back then. And I remember her being in that doc. So, okay, when we come back, we're going to put our minds together. We do a little mind melding and figure out what really maybe happened.
We need your help to grow this podcast, which means we need you to subscribe and then write a good review. This helps other people like you find our podcast and see if this is right for them.
And if you write a review, we'll send one lucky fan a week a brand new poster for our podcast. Just take a picture of your review, post it on Instagram, and make sure to tag us. We'll choose one lucky winner a week until the next episode comes out.
Now that we've discussed the facts, here's my favorite part of the show. Let's give our theories.
Okay, I'll go first. I'm really excited about my theory here. So Britney Spears and Bush were about 2007-ish, right? 2006, 2005, all that time. So secretly, those two are hooking up, having little relations.
Interesting.
I'm going to follow it up. So my son, is actually the love child of those two.
Wait, when was he born?
In 2010. And he's not really Asian. So all the Asian kids, if you're subscribed to my Instagram and you see my kid playing baseball, that's not really my kid. That's just, we dress him up as an Asian person just to throw people off. He's really the love child of Britney Spears and George W. Bush. And we're just waiting for a Bush check to come in to, for him to pay for his college and everything else.
George Bush used to own the Texas Rangers. And you know how celebrities do the first pitch in baseball games? George Bush, even as an elderly person, had one of the best first pitches ever. Perfect strike, perfect curveball. Like some people throw it, they either they don't make it to the mound or they throw it off. He was probably in the 60s and threw a perfect strike, perfect curveball. So I'm just saying for Koji, since your son is really good at baseball, that would
That makes sense.
Yeah, and you brought something up. His travel baseball team is the Pasadena Rangers. Mind blown. Oh, goosebumps. You guys feel it? The goosebumps.
I was going to say that I thought you were heading in a completely different direction when you were talking about the first pitch. I thought it was the first pitch and it almost never gets to the plate. So I thought you were talking to Koji. He threw his first pitch and it couldn't quite make it.
Okay, Dwayne, what's your theory?
Mine is a little more practical. It's kind of like, the guys who worked on the Manhattan Project didn't know that they were working on it, or they only knew their piece of it, And I don't think you could trust Britney with a lot of the things that they would need to trust her with. So I think that her publicist is a government agent or was a government agent at the time. And which makes it so brilliant because her publicist, like Britney was constantly doing crazy things and the publicist would just release one of those crazy things when they needed it. You know what I mean? So because her publicist probably spent the first few years suppressing things she did, keeping stuff out of the newspaper, paying this one off, paying that one off. And so the government came to her and said, hey, we actually don't want you to, no press is bad press. So instead of suppressing these stories, why don't we just let them come out at certain intervals? And she was like, okay, bet. And so a combination of that and maybe knowing what triggers Britney, if you have a friend who's easy to trigger, that you can weaponize that friend, right? So if you're hanging out, you can say, hey, man, not for nothing, but that guy said your girl is ugly. Right. And if your friend doesn't have a good self-control, he'll go and beat that guy up. So you basically weaponized your friend, right? So the publicist would, in addition to leaking certain stories, could weaponize Britney by giving her access to whatever was her fancy in terms of mind stimulation, be it alcohol, drugs, men. So whenever we needed her to go off the rails, just introduce those things. She's very predictable. She's going to do exactly what you want. And then you leak the story.
Wow. So it's almost like an MK Ultra kind of thing where they're controlling the mind.
Ooh,
a little bit.
That's my theory. So yeah.
Okay, let's go, Will.
Yeah.
Okay, Jennifer, what's your theory? Then we'll end on Will's.
So my theory is that, yes, the government likes to use distractions and puppet, people as their puppet. And so therefore, I believe she was a government agent. But the reason why it kind of ended, it's not so much Bush uses people, it's the government uses people. And around this time was the explosion of social media. So as you remember, during this era, let's see here, 2004 apparently is when Facebook became, and it was just for Harvard. But I remember 2006, 2007 was when I had first heard about or was told Facebook was going to be a new thing and to transition from MySpace to Facebook. So this is around the time when social media was about to take up our conscious, take up our space in our heads and attention. So for me, Facebook was invented. And then of course, Instagram came about. I think it was 2010. So basically my thing is the government has made social media what distracts us now. And this is much more powerful and lasting.
I really like that. I like two things. I like the idea that the algorithm basically replaced a lot of secret agents and people whose job it was to plant things. They just got their pink slip in the mail. We got this thing, we got the algorithm, so we're all set. And there's a rhythm to things, right? And the internet naturally syncs up to the rhythm of things and knows when to drop things, right? Al Gore created the internet. Al Gore rhythm.
What? Oh my God, that is so good. Did you just come up with that on the spot?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not bragging, but yeah.
Oh my God, that is a zinger.
Good
It's so
job.
stupid. Thank you.
It's not. It's fucking smart.
Will, what's your theory?
All right. So bear with me here, right? You all heard about the MK Ultra program, right?
Yes, yes.
Back in the 60s, the CIA's, right? So part of the MK Ultra experiments, it's been shown, the documents showed that they implanted dogs with a chip that would help, that would make them run or sit or stand or do all these kinds of like make them do things. My theory is the first time Britney went to rehab, they implanted her with one of these things.
Wow.
And then during Fahrenheit 9/11, when she says what she said and then didn't remember, that's what's happening. Because one of the things that they found was through these experiments, they would make people do things that they wouldn't remember. If you remember back to the MK Ultra program, that was a big thing. They dosed some people, mental health patients. One person was dosed 174 days straight with LSD. And it's all a way to try to control people, basically let opposing forces lay down their weapons so that they can end wars peacefully. That was their line, right? So Britney was implanted with a chip that every time George W. would say something crazy, it would make her do something just crazier, just to move that stuff off of his plate and onto hers. And that's why the whole conservativeship thing, right? She broke the programming and they were forced to keep her out of the public eye so she wouldn't come clean with it.
Wow.
Oh, I like that.
That's my theory.
I wonder how she broke it. Like, did the chip stop working? Did she get too much water in her ear? You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know, but remember towards the end of the conservatorship, she was posting videos on social media that people were like, all her fans were saying, "You gotta save Britney." They're treating her badly. She's going crazy, kind of thing. I think it was just one of these things where maybe her mental health snapped and the chemistry was no longer compatible with this chip, and it something happened there. It fried it or something like that.
No, during the conservatorship, the chip was still there. And then, because the conservatorship began in what, 2008?
Maybe 8 or 10.
I thought it was later than that. Yeah.
Later? Okay. But anyway, you're saying, so during it, they were trying to keep her down, right? Because she had the chip?
No, I'm seeing the look of doubt on your faces. I'm seeing it.
No, I like this theory. I'm feeling it. Yes.
Yeah, I like it because Bush's presidency ended, but she was still fucking chipped. So that's why she still was not normal.
So I'm going to add on to yours, Will. Okay. I love yours. But what if 2016, when President Trump started, they wanted to bring it back. And so they tried to restart it at that point, but then it got fried.
That makes a lot of sense because they were putting her under too much pressure. They were having her do too much shit because of all the stuff that Trump was doing, and it just fried. That makes perfect sense to me.
Why am I in this conservatorship? I want to control my own life now. See it. Oh, we've solved it.
Right.
I love it.
And by this point, it's an outdated chip anyway.
Right. And maybe Trump was like, "We don't need her. I have my Twitter account. I'm good. I can."
But then when Twitter banned them, then they needed something again, and they brought her back.
Right.
That's when they got Mayor Giuliani.
Right. For people listening, the MK Ultra thing it's the best sort of how it looks has been or portrayed is, I guess, in Manchurian Candidate, those movies where and it's so interesting you mentioned that, Will, because we've had unfortunately 2 more shootings recently, mass shootings, and I get online and I'm always finding people who will say this is some MK Ultra guy, and I'm like, either way, I don't know if that like makes it better or worse. It's like if he didn't have a gun, even if he's in essence being controlled by remote control by someone, he still needs the gun to carry out these acts, But when you look at Manchurian Candidate, especially the old Angela Lansbury one, basically you say like 8 words or 10 words to someone that don't make sense, but then once all those words are said, they're activated, and they don't know what they're doing, right? So it's kind of like apple, microphone, lotion. So.
Ooh, I'm glad you stopped there.
Yeah, right. When I'm talking to someone, if they don't make sense, if like the first 4 words don't make sense together, I'm out. I walk away because I don't want to. I don't want to be activated.
We've presented our theories. Now we're at the point in the show where we need to pick the unofficial official story. Okay. One that will once and for all answer this question, right? What do you guys think? Which theory do we want to go with?
I mean, even though I like my son being the love child of Britney and Bush, I think Will's MK Ultra is the winner to me.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel, Jennifer? Dwayne?
I would agree. I mean, Koji, yours was great. That your son, who very much looks like you and your wife, somehow is George Bush's son. Tempting. I do. Yeah, I like Will's MK Ultra thing too, just because it's like the shades of my theory. It covers a lot, like the whole, and the fact is that really was a thing at some point too. So it's undeniable that they did try those things at some point.
Well, first of all, I do want to side note, Takao does not know this, right? He doesn't know.
No.
But you will reveal to him when he's 18?
Yes. So, like, go find the Bush family and try to get some money from them.
Right.
And run for public office in Texas, obviously.
Oh, God. Yeah, please. Actually, I have to say, Will, I like the MK Ultra theory as well, because it totally makes sense. And honestly, we've been doing this show now for a year, almost a little over a year and a half. And none of us and any of our guests have never brought in the MK Ultra theory, which could be applied to a lot of really freaky stuff. And it's just so on, and it's real. It's based in reality and could explain things like this.
The scariest thing about it is that it's real, that it is actually, and it was an actual program, and it could explain so much. It could explain everything that we've just experienced the last 4 decades or wherever long it's been. It's totally. It's sad too at the same time.
Yeah. And it makes you think why, I don't know. I think guys who get caught doing crazy things, I'm talking about just personal life, like guys who get caught, messing around when they're lady, I would tap into that MK Ultra excuse a little bit, just what happened? Who is this?
That's funny.
And then the next 8 words your girlfriend or wife says, you just start humping the wall. See? Those were the 8 words.
What am I doing here in this shady motel? Oh my God. Let's get out.
I thought this was a real massage parlor, not one of those Asian massage parlors.
Oh my God. Well, if you were my man and you told me that, I would give you props just for your sheer cleverness. I'd be like, okay, I let you off. That's too good. You're too funny.
Right. That's great.
I guess we know which story we like the best. We're all in agreement here, aren't we, guys? Well, Will, you agree with your own theory, right? Or what do you think?
Yeah. No, I live that theory. You could not think about that all day long, every day. It's
how sad. That's so sad.
Yeah, it's quite sad, actually.
We'll take another break, and when we come back, we're going to figure out which other celebrities are secretly government agents. Now that we know Britney was a government agent, she just wasn't aware, right? What other celebrities are also government agents and why?
Okay, I'll get started first because I'm super excited about my answer. I spent some time thinking about this one. It's T-Pain.
What?
And you know why? The government didn't want rap music to be as popular as it is.
Oh.
So they sent in the government agent T-Pain and his auto-tune and fucked it all up.
Wow.
He decided to mess up hip-hop. They didn't want to do hip-hop anymore. They tried to kill Tupac. They killed Tupac. They killed Biggie. They killed Big L. They killed all of them. It didn't work. It was still popular. Jay-Z, Nas, all these guys, Outkast, they're all there. And then they sent T-Pain, and then hip-hop was done from that point on. So he's the government agent.
Interesting.
Oh my God, that is interesting.
But maybe he killed R&B.
He killed all black people,
right.
basically. Yeah.
Well, I would have to say Dennis Rodman. But based on the Britney sort of line of thinking, but he's not MK Ultra, like he knows what he's doing. And it's like, just get out there and be crazy. And his usefulness is sort of waned a bit because he's not in the public eye. But when he was playing basketball, his job was to just distract and inflame people, and he did a great job of it. I don't know. I want to say also maybe Martha Stewart, but she did spend some time in jail, so I don't know how that would work exactly.
She was real different from the time she went to jail to when she was after. Like, I don't think I could see her hanging with Snoop
That's true.
Before jail, right?
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, it was a total like character change, like behavioral change. He was a different person.
Yeah, I think she probably because she ran the yard. You know what I mean?
Or actually, here's the secret: Martha Stewart's actually an African American man. That's her real personality. That's her real like undercover thing. And then, but she had to be an older white woman for the show.
That is some commitment. But did you hear the theory about Dennis Rodman being actually an alien, being a lizard alien, whatever, or whatever you call those?
A reptilian.
Reptilian, yeah.
Oh, right. I mean, he looks it a little, but I've never heard that theory. I will say this one other. You could also kind of say Al Sharpton, but that again, that's an actual thing. Like he was an informant of the FBI, so that's not as sexy and funny.
Will, which celebrity do you think is a government agent?
So I'm going back a little bit, but I'm thinking Jerry Springer.
Ooh, I like that.
Because for a long time, the government's been trying to dumb us down, right? And how better to dumb us down than to put us up against one another. And Jerry Springer was the king of putting us against one another.
Absolutely. You know what I love about that one, Will, about Jerry Springer? It's simultaneously dumbing you down while making you feel like you're better than other people.
Right. And making you angry.
Yeah,
too.
making you angry. Because you watch that show and you're like, I'm better than these people. But to really be better, you have to cut the TV off. You have to like stop watching.
Right. I just have to give props on the Jerry Springer thing because you're right. He was a magician in terms of creating conflict, which relates to my theory about the government agent thing with Britney Spears, is that I believe Mark Zukerberg is a celebrity that is a government agent. And namely, it's because this political climate that we're in, this extreme right versus left, right? You've got the wokies on one side and then like these people like trying to ban abortions and shit like that on the other. It's so divided right now. It's like, it's people are uprising. It's making people want to go to the polls, whatever side you're on, right? People are stirred more so to vote now. And Facebook, right, was, as we know, there was like the collusion, like there were the Russia bots, right? And there's stuff where we're not quite sure. I don't remember what he got in trouble for, Zuckerberg. But basically, I know that Mark Zuckerberg is not totally not guilty. He's guilty of making Trump and the right more, how should I say, empowered. And so therefore he's working for the government because the government wants us to go out and vote, whatever side you're on. They want people riled up. They want the right and the left to be, distinct so that there's more, heat. So yeah, he's responsible for the climate we're in. And so Facebook has been sort of like, is being used as a tool.
Is it him or is it the algorithm?
You can say it's the algorithm, but you can stop the algorithm. It's just got to flip a switch and then it's done, I think it's so interesting because so many right-wing politicians, I think they give a lot of rhetoric toward big tech. Like big tech is seen as an enemy, except big tech is how Trump won. You know what I mean? And so it's kind of like this weird, it's like, right. Are they like Coke and Pepsi? Like they're against each other, but they really just want you to drink cola. And so they kind of feed off each other. You know what I mean? And
Zuckerberg is allegedly also a reptilian.
I heard that too.
Yeah. His eyes. Yeah.
Yep. It goes back to your last episode, right? He's not Asian, so he's bad.
Right.
Yeah. He's married to an Asian.
And the thing too about Zuckerberg is that Facebook, it's a good tool. He's done great things. It's grown. But there were so many social media platforms prior to Facebook. And so how Facebook became the sort of the one that we all adopted. I mean, there was MySpace, there was Friendster, there was the one that begins with an X. There were so many others that it's just weird. So he didn't create a new thing, like something that we've never seen before. You know what I mean? We treat it like as such, but it was just a different version of what we already saw.
But I think going back to your statement about the algorithm, I think this is the first one that really started putting different messages to different people. right? So depending on your search parameters and what you're posting, what you're listening to, and all that kind of stuff. So the first one has said, "Oh, you like conservative stuff? Well, here you go. I'm going to keep feeding you Alex Jones and not shit, so you can confirm your suspicions or your thoughts about stuff anyway." So rather than helping the people make up their own minds, they're constantly being fed what they already want to be fed, and that's just made things worse as we go. Oh man, something just hit me. All this stuff is all AI driven, right? What if the robot apocalypse is already upon us? We don't even know. We're already being taken over by AI. We have no clue.
Oh my God.
Completely. That is definitely happening, because there's going to get to a point where even when they cut the algorithm off, it won't be off anymore. Facebook had this thing where two computers were talking to each other, and they like immediately started using some weird different language, and they unplugged the computers.
Oh,
you can Google it. It's a real thing.
It's like a war games thing.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so freaky.
I remember the last election, I just wanted to see how easy it would be to start changing all my ads for everything I was there and all the texts, and just, so I started looking up Trump stuff and just like looking up conspiracy stuff about around the right wing. I started getting text messages. I started getting like all my advertisements on like Facebook, or I'm not on Facebook, but on like YouTube or Instagram, or I started getting, at first it was normal, like, support a CPAC or something. And then it became like crazier and crazier. And like, like, did you know everyone's a crisis actor? Like that's the stuff I was getting by like a couple like days into it. It was crazy. I was like, oh my God, it's
so
like,
quick.
It turns so quickly.
And you got text messages?
Yeah, I was getting text messages about, support like whoever this candidate. He's the only
That's
real
crazy.
patriot. Like
that's crazy.
Like, oh my goodness. I used to get Move On. Now I'm getting like these crazy ones too, on the other side.
That's so wow.
I just listened to a show the other day about something similar like that they tested to see if they can start this kind of social unrest type of thing. They did it. Remember the whole fight about whether pineapple belongs on a pizza? Yeah. That was actually a thing. That was a test case that they made to see if they can get people to be at odds with each other by saying that they served a whole bunch of pizzas really deserves to have pineapple on it. It's so delicious, such a great topping. And in a different subset of people, they served, pineapple, people that love pineapple on pizza, they're the worst thing in the world. And they wanted to see if they could really divide people in that way. And they totally did. Because to this day, people aren't in the middle on this thing. You either love pineapple on your pizza or you hate it. So, I mean, we are absolutely being manipulated, no question.
Either somewhere there's a computer or some sort of Dr. Evil somewhere, and he's just going like this. And it's like, is a hot dog a sandwich? This will destroy them. This will bring them down.
Okay. Thank you so much, Will, for coming on with us. It is nice to have another professional podcaster up in the mix. And so please tell us where people can follow you. Give us the deets on pod, on anything you want to share.
Well, the show can be found on any podcasting platform, anyone. But probably the easiest way to connect with us is go to skepticmetaphysician.com. You can subscribe to the show directly on there from whatever podcast platform you choose. They're all there. You can follow us on our social media platforms directly from the site. You can send us email or voicemail. You can leave us reviews. You can do everything. Everything it's like a one-stop Skeptic Metaphysician shop. It's skepticmetaphysician.com. Love that. And thank you all so much for listening, podcast listeners, longtime fans, friends, newbies. There are probably around, we estimate, 2.4 million podcasts out there. So we're honored you've chosen ours to listen to. Thanks for checking us out. Also have a website, unofficialofficialstory.com. Check out our show notes. Here are our past episodes. Same thing. Socials, we got it all. So just be sure to come back next month, because we're going to find out the answer to the question, what kind of alien is Elon Musk?
Nano.
Don't say anything. I want him to be the alien that comes out of your chest, from the movie Aliens. Like that would be awesome. Could you imagine Elon Musk's face coming out?
No, I won't imagine that. No.
What are those called? Chest bursters or something? They're called.
Something like that.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you, Will. Thank you,
Thanks,
everybody.
guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.